time for service. Look at everybody. Turn around. Come again. Come. What? Come yet again. Come. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Chattanooga. I am the Reverend Mandy Goheen. It is my great honor to serve this congregation as your settled minister. My pronouns are she and her, and what a beautiful, glorious day to be in the world. The trees are waking up. The pollen is waking up. And what a beloved gathering of folks who have more power and compassion and love in one spot on Sunday morning than you see a lot of other places. I am so glad you're here. I refer to my spouse a lot as Andre, or he, please get me a glass of water. So I thought today it would be nice to include my beloved spouse as our chalice lighter. And in Unitarian Universalist communities and gatherings everywhere, we light a chalice to mark our time together. He has a name. It's Andre Goheen, and he is why I have glasses of water while I preach. So thank you. Please join us in the chalice lighting. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Before we begin our gathering and greeting song, our opening song, I have a little announcement to make that's pretty exciting. There is a new baby in our midst. Does anybody know Chun and Sally? Yay! So we have a new baby. Let's see. Edelyn. So cute. And she was born at 2:44 a.m. this morning, which was yesterday. She weighed 6 pounds and 10 ounces and was 18 inches long. Mother and child are doing well. I knew from seeing Sally Picciotto last week that she was getting ready to have a baby in a minute. So I am not surprised that we are welcoming new people into this community from birth to a million. So please stand and take some time. If you enjoy greeting your neighbor, greet your neighbor, and then we'll start singing. So. Yeah. I'll help with that for her. Tell me your name. I don't know. Atlas? That's a great name. Well, duh. I almost said what people say. My name is Mandy, and everybody goes, oh, I have a dog named Mandy. Well, I had a turtle named Atlas. But just in his defense, I don't know if he was a he, I'm just saying. It was a map turtle, an Alabama mud turtle, and they have they look like a topographical map on it, so I named it Atlas. So, yeah, and I have all my pets are named something that will make people uncomfortable. So my cats are Smokey Joe Biden and Cinderly Paris. Yes, so names are important. Thank you for sharing the name you chose. And I'll forget it's still Atlas. But no, maybe not. I'll just and you two again, please. Say what? Yeah. Rose and Ashley. Yeah. My great-grandmother, Rose. I think a lot. Like this baby that was just born, Edelyn, her older sister is Minerva. And I just love it. You know, like it's just a lovely. Yes. I'll just move out right here. Each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. For each child that's born,
did it.
We did it. And we did it. All right, please be seated. And now it's time for our story for all ages.
Good morning. I'd like to invite the children and those young at heart to come on up and join me.
Who are you?
Hello, my name is Camille Mason. I am the Director of Religious Education. So I am the director of anything and everything to do with the youth. All right. We're going to read a story today called You Forgot Your Skirt, Amelia Bloomer. So, my friends in the back, I would really appreciate if you could just push the slides. That would be great. Can you do that for me? Thank you. So yeah, you can go to the next page. Now, I really liked this front cover because you might not be able to read it very well, but there is on the side, it kind of gives you a little synopsis of what this story is all about. I'm going to read it to you because it's kind of funny. And it has a few puns, so I want you to see if you can hear them. Would you dare to bear your underwear? If you like clothes and people with the courage to skirt conventions and dress injustice, then Amelia Bloomer and her unfitting ideas will charm the pants off of you. All right. So, this is called You Forgot Your Skirt, Amelia Bloomer, by Shanna Corey, illustrated by Chelsea McLaren. Amelia Bloomer was not a proper lady. Oh, will you change the slide? Yep, go to the next one. There we go. Amelia Bloomer was not a proper lady. In fact, Amelia Bloomer thought proper ladies were silly. She thought it was silly that proper ladies were not allowed to vote. So she tried to change the laws so that they could. Good grief, people said. Amelia Bloomer thought it was silly that proper ladies were not supposed to work. So she started her own newspaper and went to work on that. She named the newspaper The Lily. It was a special newspaper, all about women. She hired other women to work on it too. A shame, people said. But the silliest thing of all, thought Amelia Bloomer, was the way proper ladies were supposed to dress. Their dresses were so heavy. Wearing them was like carting around a dozen bricks. What was proper about that? Their dresses were so long that proper ladies looked like walking broomsticks. They acted like broomsticks too, because their skirts swept up all the mud and trash from the street. What was proper about that? The corsets they wore underneath their dresses were so tight, it was hard to breathe in them. Proper ladies were fainting at the drop of a hat. What was proper about that? And the hoops they wore underneath their dresses were so wide that no matter how they squeezed, no matter how they squished and squashed and stuffed themselves through, proper ladies always got stuck in doorways all over town. What in the world was proper about that? Even little girls have to wear proper dresses so they couldn't jump or run or play. This has got to stop, declared Amelia Bloomer. Then, one day, Amelia's friend Elizabeth Cady Stanton came to visit. Elizabeth brought her cousin Libby with her. Libby looked remarkable. She was even more improper than Amelia because Libby was not wearing a dress. Dresses, said Libby. Bah, how silly. Instead of a dress, Libby was wearing something that was not too heavy and not too long and not too tight and not too wide. It looked just right. "Brilliant," announced Amelia. And she went right to her sewing machine and sewed a matching outfit for herself. Then she went out for a walk. The townspeople were aghast. "Can you believe it? You forgot your skirt, Amelia Bloomer," called a little boy. "Shocking," said everyone. But Amelia didn't care one bit. She thought the new clothes were wonderful. She ran and jumped and twirled and did all the things she always wanted to do. Amelia had such a good time that she wanted other women to know about the new clothes too. So when she got home, she wrote about them in the Lily. "Marvelous," said a lady from Boston. "I declare," said a lady from Charleston. "Where can I get one?" said a lady from Baltimore. Pretty soon, Amelia had letters from women everywhere. They all wanted patterns so they could make the clothes themselves. Some of them even wanted tips on what to wear with the new style. Some people called the new style of clothes the American costume. Most people just called them bloomers. Of course, not everyone liked bloomers. "Humph," said one very proper English gentleman. "Balderdash," said another. "This can only lead to more rights for women," grumbled a third. Over time, bloomers went out of style. Proper ladies and gentlemen everywhere breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank goodness," they said. "Now everyone will forget this nonsense and things can return to normal." But did people really forget all about Amelia Bloomer and her improper ideas? Well, what do you think? Thank you for reading with me. If you will help me sing the children out.
Time in our gathering where folks are invited forward to share a joy or concern by lighting a candle to mark something important or relevant in your week, a time to release something that is hurting you, celebrate something that is bringing you joy, or just help you get through a day that might be slogging along. If for any of those reasons you would like to would like to light a candle today, I invite you forward to come and do so. not mean to blow out your candle. That was yours. Please join me in a moment of reflection and centering. Spirit of love and life, no matter what reason someone felt the need to light a ritual candle today, please surround them in love, surround them in support and joy that is represented in this community. Keep us strong and knowing that we're together and we can't do this alone. Blessed be. So I've been teaching us about spiritual practice a little bit, and we've been talking about singing as spiritual practice. And singing can get you pretty good sometimes, right? Singing can let some stuff out that you didn't know was in there. And so we've been doing the meditation on breathing. So I want to invite folks to join me in singing a meditation on breathing. We're going to sing it through twice. We're not going to be fancy. We're just going to use it to center us. Ready? Remember to breathe when things require oxygen, which is most of our time in the world. And remember that when that song comes to you, you know that this is a community that holds you and that myself and pastoral care is always here for you. Speaking of singing as spiritual practice, I'd like to invite the choir forward. Thank you. So, I'm a middle-aged woman. And today, my office administrator tried to help me cut my pocket open in these pants so my microphone would stay in. And if you don't think dress reform is done, you are wrong. So welcome to a conversation about dress reform, and welcome to the idea that we do not have to have some kind of silly midlife crisis. We can do something else with that period in our life where it feels like we're in the middle. We're not quite young, we're not quite old. We're starting to get achy. We're starting to get a little mouthier. It's coming, right? I have anyway. I've become a more authentic person in my midlife, and we are called in Unitarian Universalism to become more of an authentic self, to love ourselves, to remember we have inherent worth and dignity, because unless we believe we have it, it's hard to believe other people have it. So we're going to have a little talk about some people who inspire me. Now, Amelia Bloomer, who I love, right? Like, we heard a lot about her, but what we don't know is she is affiliated with Unitarian Universalism because, of course, everyone in this time period who is a suffragette or something is somehow related to us. The women who became suffragettes were originally pioneer preachers, many of them, for our denomination. They went out west during the Civil War, came back and learned how to wear pants. I don't know, right? Like, the interesting thing about this bloomer craze is Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who we hear a lot about, instantly in her middle age said, "That's for me. That's for me to dress that way. I am going to use the way I dress to project justice, to be authentic, but to also take a firm, planted stand about what I need and what I believe as a middle-aged woman." And she liked bloomers because she had a very specific concern that I had never thought of other than collecting the trash in your skirts, which I had also never thought of as you walk down the street. She was worried about women carrying babies on one hip and a candle in the other with all those skirts on. This was a practical concern about falling and safety. Also, the clothing she was pushing back against had a lot of corseting. And the corsets were where they attached all those heavy skirts. So women's hips were pulled down immensely by the weight of all those clothes. And there were petticoats and layers, and they were made out of all kinds of wild things. And so dress reform shops started opening, and they sold patterns so other women had access to make clothing that was safer around machinery, and also the bicycle changed everything. You could ride a bicycle in a pair of bloomers, and including on the front of the order of service, that outfit is called a bicycle suit. It still doesn't look like I would want to ride a bicycle in that. I just want to be, like, really honest. I'm not sure we got all the way. But what I do want to talk a little bit about, too, is the idea that many times white feminists either outshined or didn't acknowledge black women who had the same kind of insight and instinct. So I want to shift gears from how wonderful Unitarian history is into some current things, and I want to talk about one of my saints Beyonce. Didn't see that coming, did you? Beyonce wrote a song called Formation. Anybody know that song? Formation is kind of the day she broke up with white people. It's the day Taylor Swift got a lot more fans because she, in her Formation, formed this X and was clear about where she stood. And she was using her body, her affluence, the way she dressed to send a message to people about how the money of the United States, are we ready? The money and the stuff we have, black women's bodies specifically have given us the resources we have today. Think about it. They don't get credit for that. They don't get credit. The other reason I like Beyonce is even in her song, and if you haven't listened to Formation and you do later, you go, Reverend Mandy, that was very inappropriate for you to ask me to listen to. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. Because she is not only smashing the patriarchy, she's smashing all kinds of black female stereotypes. And the best thing she smashes is this bias that Southerners are racist and Southern black people are Bama or country. And one of the lines in her song that gives me life is that I'm still rich, but I'm still country. I got hot sauce in my bag, right? Like, I'm still who I am. I'm an authentic, she was a little young, she's getting in the middle-age category. I'm an authentic woman. She waited to have a baby. She has had much control. And the other favorite line in this song, before we go on to the next part, is you might just be a black Bill Gates in the making. Oh, wait, I'm actually the Bill Black Gates in the making. Like, you know, she like turns it around and she really points out that A, police are violent. She is on the side of radicalness. Somebody's like, oh, she's not political. Oh, excuse me. Don't say that. Remember that this changed things for her. She was in a place of authenticity and braveness and love for the world, and she knew her influence could help young black men quit getting shot. And she could lift up the police as a way. You have to watch the video. It's so good. It has all kinds of coded language. It has the corset, another favorite part. She has the corset on and she's all proper, and then she's dancing. I'm not going to do it because it would be really inappropriate right now. But she dances like she doesn't have a corset on in this video. So, also, you can't help but clean your house when you listen to it. So I really appreciate that. Another group of women who are often ignored when we talk about feminist movements are the drag queens. Everyone got quiet. You're going to talk about drag queens during women's history? Oh, yes, I am. Where do you think all those clothes went, friends? I'm kidding. But I have had, thank you. That was a slow roll joke. The first person who was publicly a drag queen and called herself queen was an emancipated black slave going by the name Queen. First queen. The idea of using our clothing as a way to portray a message is nothing new. The idea that we always get it right is absolutely wrong. We make mistakes, right? But it is a foundation. So, I want to go back to middle age and RuPaul for just a second. RuPaul's 10 years older than me. I know we look the same. But I haven't been feeling well, and I'm not whining. But you know when you're not feeling well and you watch a lot of TV? I'm going to say RuPaul's saved me the last couple of months. I have been watching some Drag Race. I started at the beginning. I had never really watched it. I'd known about it. I've always loved RuPaul, but I didn't know what a prophet she was. I didn't know that she continually messed up, and instead of getting all in her feelings and cutting people off, she didn't. She learned, she grew, she showed folks how to be resilient. This is a little boy who loved drag races when he was little. You never know the seeds that you are planting with someone. Not only did RuPaul love drag races, he would sit and watch his mother put her makeup on and dream about it. Not only that, RuPaul is named after gumbo. His mother named him Ru she's from Louisiana. It's the sauce, it's the thing. And there's something about these Southern folks, Beyonce, RuPaul, other people who are leaning into activism, using their money to shift the world that I really respect. The fact that RuPaul got it wrong about trans people and continues to over and over and over again, and instead of digging my heels in the sand and saying I'm right, I'm going to learn more about the people who I might have heard. I'm going to make reparations, including there's a version of Drag Race with butch women on it now. I'm sorry, I was excited for just a moment. Anyway, it is a way to be countercultural, but it seems so glossy and media, and you're like, this is just a star, I can't be like that. But what RuPaul says that is so important to us as we transition through the developmental stages of our life is that uniqueness and talent are our gifts to show the world. And how we lean into who we are, our authentic self, is actually magic. And some of the magic RuPaul does lasts 6 hours. He has helpers with all that makeup and those pats. So magic literally, but also magic of giving people a place to belong and understand they belong. Here's the thing about people that are middle age. We are also transitioning from a time of standing on the corners and being in the front to supporting the new leaders growing. And this is fundamental to what RuPaul does. He is helping the ladies do drag in a way that is new. It is downright semi-wholesome. It is something to watch with your family. I have some family that is really into pageant. I'm from Southern Ohio. My mother was the River Days princess. My cousin's been the River Days princess. All this stuff. We have never had anything to talk about before RuPaul. Because now we both have this language of pageants and understanding. And now my super straight conservative farmer country family is watching Drag Race. Because I said, this is something we can talk about. This is something we can have in common. If you don't think RuPaul's important to you in this room right now, do you know how much money she has sunk into Tennessee? Anybody know that? RuPaul specifically reacted to the drag laws in Tennessee and poured money into the ACLU, poured money into anything to push back on the terrible laws that were happening in our state that were hurting people. And when we push back, and here's where we get in the weeds a little bit, and this is why I think it's important. Us women sometimes can be very territorial about the fact that we never got to have pockets, and we forget other people didn't have them either, right? Like, we might forget somebody else didn't have pockets, and we forget them. There has been a history of tension between women and drag queens, women and transgender folks, drag queens and transgender. I mean, you can add it all you want, and don't even talk about getting some men in there. That just gets wild, right? So there's this tension between us that we don't acknowledge, and it's another elephant in the room. It's another one of those things where we get trapped by the tenets of capitalism, that we have to be superior to be successful, and we know better than other people, and we forget to be citizens. We forget that our citizenship is a way to express who we are, and we do not have to do it at others' expense. The American dream has been preached to us our whole lives, and it has at other people's expense hidden in the definition. And as middle-aged folks now, I think we have an opportunity as youth start to change the rules and make us say words we're not comfortable with. We have a responsibility to support them financially if we have the means. We have a responsibility to let them know that they are welcome and their voice can be heard, because guess what, folks? All that fighting we did, it was so they could do this, right? It was so people could have different pronouns. It was so people could dress how they want. It's so we can have drag without being arrested in Tennessee. And when we help make those change happen, we don't get to say what the rules are after. We're opening the door for inherent worth and dignity of the next group of leaders who are going to probably surprise us and make us upset. Bloomers, for example. Elizabeth Cady Stanton wore bloomers for about 5 years until the bloomers were such a distraction to her political career that she started wearing a dress again. Everyone gave up because they felt like it was a distraction. They felt like they were getting too much pushback about their dress, and people weren't concentrating on people's right to vote. That is another thing that we need to push back against. Who has ever had a child, or is a child, anyway, who has ever tried to help a child, who is a child, who's ever tried to help a child make a new habit? Like, brush your teeth, go to bed. What happens right before that habit works? That's when they fight you the hardest, right? Like right when or they fight you the hardest right when you think you have it mastered. Sometimes that's what we do automatically. Change is necessary and we fight it and we don't quite know why. And sometimes the kerfuffle is the distraction, right? Sometimes the kid throwing the toothpaste on the ground is the distraction. The real thing is they're not going to have cavities. And we lose sight of the outcome of stuff. Let me be a little more clear about that. So specifically, the pantaloons, like, it was just so much talking about pants that nobody was talking about voting. That's where we get in the weeds. And sometimes when it's getting the most out of control, the media or whatever, pushing back against something like drag, and everyone's throwing a fit and it feels like we should all give up, I want you to remember that probably means it's working. When we are making our lawmakers squirmy, when we are making our neighbors squirmy because we believe in inherent worth and dignity of every person, and they start pushing back, that means it's working, and that means your job gets a little bit harder because it's time to love them even more. I'm trying to decide, oh, that's the wrong one. Well, that was all right, but I was trying to decide if I had another fancy slide. So in Drag Race, RuPaul talks to the girls a lot about their internal voices who keep them from doing the work they need to do to be authentic. I have this amazing internal voice. Anybody have it? That's like, oh, you shouldn't wear that. Oh, you should. The internal voice tells you shoulds a lot. You should give more money to the Easter seals. Sure, you should. But, you know, there's all these words, and I get influenced by all this. I should. And I forget by hearing the shoulds what I need to do. And what I need to do is live a loving, authentic life and not walk over people on the way to justice. We are in an era of collective liberation for citizens, and it is a different kind of game. It's a hard adjustment. We are addicted to capitalism. And I'm not going to go not buy pants, too, because you need capitalism to get a pair of pants, right? Or have groceries. But how we are creative and push back against it can be anything you can imagine. It could be doing clothing trades here with sizes. It could mean we have a 60s dance pretty soon, and everybody shares some of the cool stuff we have, so we're not contributing to that capitalism that hurts folks. And I want to say specifically hurts women in general. Okay, Beyonce, you're gorgeous. I'm never going to look like you, right? But I'm also not going to buy the product that tells me I can. Do you see the difference? We have to think about and spend our money wisely. Our money is our vote sometimes. And when we use our money wisely, we can't assume that everybody has the same resources we do. So we really need to be sharing as we do that and moving together towards justice instead of making it all about us. Now, I find it very exciting to have an opportunity to wear this really hot jacket today because I'm talking about drag queens. But in a drag show, who's seen a drag show? Oh, thank you. Woo! I'm in this church. I remember now. Okay. All right. There is usually a reveal, right? So I'm revealing that I was hot. That's my reveal. But reveals are very interesting because they peel off layers and they show the transition that is available to us. I also want to say the other thing that watching drag brings to me is laughter and joy, and darn it, we deserve it. I want to say one more thing about RuPaul and transgender folks, and the thing where he got in trouble was he was making fun of gender. And when that is the MO, and that is how you're building justice, making fun of something, sometimes the space for people who were trying to finally be authentically who they are as a trans person didn't have space. So if you're ever curious about why that was that way and why that tension was there, it's because if you are making fun of something, it is hard to be authentic at the same time, especially if those voices are already telling you should do something else. So be very mindful about the kindness in your words when you talk to people, because sometimes we can say things we totally don't mean. We can say things like, I forget what I said the other. I'm always saying the wrong thing. It was some misappropriation, and it was some instigating thing, and maybe it was like Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who said very bad words in front of Frederick Douglass. I don't know what I said. And the fact that Elizabeth Cady Stanton said very bad words in front of Frederick Douglass is normal. But the problem is, loves, she didn't apologize. So life is messy. It can be a drag show. It can be whatever you need it to be to love the world, but also, please be careful. Please tread lightly, not just on this earth. Tread lightly with other people. Take the opportunity to hear why something is hurting them. Try to let the defensiveness down. And in the words of RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love someone else? Can I get an amen? Amen. All right. And now is the social justice moment.
That transition happened quickly.
Sorry. You didn't know the line. The last line you didn't know was coming.
This morning I'm going to talk about the Bill of Rights, which just made it possible to hear this sermon, by the way.
Yes.
What's interesting about there are a lot of democracies in the world. Ours is always noted as the finest one, quote unquote. But one of the things that makes our democracy unique is that we have a Bill of Rights. Now, a lot of democracies are called that way because people can vote. But in our democracy, people can also speak their mind and do other things too. So I want to investigate the Bill of Rights just a little bit here. And I'm going to start with a couple of quotations. This is Thomas Paine on the Principles of Government, 1791. He that would make his own liberty secure must guard against his enemy, must guard even his enemy from oppression. For if he violates this duty, he establishes a precedent that will reach to himself. In other words, you got to guard your enemies' freedoms as well. Benjamin Franklin said, "Freedom is not a gift bestowed upon us by other men," unfortunately using the word men all the time, but a right that belongs to us by the laws of God and nature. In other words, he's saying that freedom is inalienable. It is. Now, the Declaration of Independence, in its second paragraph, has three inalienable rights mentioned: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, those are kind of general, and people fight about the meaning of those things. I would just point out that life, the right of life, sort of applies to the Roe decision that happened last year, it seems to me. But people fight about them. Now, in the Declaration of Independence, the word liberty is used once. And the word free, I take as freedom, is only used twice, and in relation to the states. So the problem with the Declaration of Independence is it's not clear about inalienable human rights. And this is also true of our Constitution. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights do not outline inalienable rights. The Constitution gives us a Bill of Rights that says what we can do and not do, what the government can do and not do to form and to reproduce our democracy. So we're not talking about inalienable human rights in our Bill of Rights. The UN created one in 1948. Eleanor Roosevelt had a hand in that. And there are 30 inalienable human rights listed in the UN Declaration. But I want to talk about our Bill of Rights, which are the first 10, especially the first 10. And I want to point out the U.S. Constitution has a preamble that says, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, and promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. To ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America." It does not, the preamble does not outline human rights or rights to preserve the Constitution. And so the founders had to add a Bill of Rights. The first 10 were added in 1891. And let me go through some of these Bill of Rights so that you can see that these are administrative rights. They're not necessarily human rights applicable to everyone. So what you find is when the Supreme Court makes decisions, or when the Republican Party passes a law somewhere in Florida or somewhere, that what they're doing is fooling around with the Bill of Rights. They're fooling around with the administration of the Bill of Rights, and they're ignoring the basis for those which are inalienable rights. We think that these rights are inalienable, but the Constitution only says that they're protected by the administration of the government. Okay? So somehow we've got to get around to inalienable rights here. Okay. The government may not interfere with your lives in these ways: establishment of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, right of assembly, and right to redress grievances. That's in the first right. In the third, in the Bill of Rights, no quartering of soldiers in owners' homes. That's pretty simple now. The fourth right, to be secure from searches and seizures of property. Okay, so you have private property, and the government is not allowed to invade your private property, or your private documents, or your supposedly your secrets and other kinds of arrangements and so forth. That's debatable at times, isn't it? And number 9 wraps all this up by saying the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others' rights retained by the people. In other words, your rights in the Bill of Rights only extend as far as the next person's rights. You can't cross that boundary. And it seems to me that's being done considerably by things like book burning and et cetera, et cetera. So, in the first 10 rights that are in our Constitution, the word freedom appears only once. And the word liberty appears only twice. So you see, the inalienable part of rights is not well stipulated in the Bill of Rights. Now, the rest of the first 10 Bill of Rights really deal with government regulation of things that people do. They're not absolute rights. It's where the government can interfere with whatever kinds of rights you're trying to force upon other people. Number 2, well-regulated militia and gun ownership. Now, I don't want to get into this today. I only want to point out that the Second Amendment says well-regulated. Okay? And Anton Scalia, when he made the decision of gun ownership in the D.C. case, also said the government has a right to regulate the kinds of guns that we have. Okay? Number 5, the right to trial by peers, not to be tried for the same offense twice, witness against oneself, and also number 6, to be compensated for loss. Those things are all controlled by the justice system, and we vote on the justice system, and we hire judges to figure all this out. So this is an administrative matter. And number 8 and number 7, to not be assessed fines and bails that are far beyond what's reasonable, and not to apply cruel and unusual punishment in the justice system. So those are all regulated, and Congress, of course, can set those kinds of limits. So those are not absolute rights. So I want to end this by saying we still have to make the transition from our own idea of rights to the idea that starts out the preamble of the Constitution, which is we the people, meaning everyone. And not just everyone in this country, but everyone in all the other countries, because we have to have inalienable, I can't say that word, human rights that cover all the people in the world. Otherwise, your rights are not protected. If black people in this country don't have full human rights, then you don't have full human rights, because it's we the people. Next time, Jan's going to talk about voting rights, which is another major hurdle that we've been dealing with for a long time. Thank you.
So that's the voting rights thing I think is pretty important. There is a organization called UU The Vote. You can find that online. It's awesome. There's volunteer opportunities to help, just to get ready for next week. Also, you know, RuPaul has really pushed voter registration, as has Beyonce, just to tie that all together. This is a time in our service when we're generous, and it's a time where you have an opportunity to give to all the awesome things going on around here instead of Starbucks. I thought that would be funnier. This place is worth your investment. The heart and soul of this place is all of you. There is some days when we don't have enough to share. Some days we have extra. But when we work together, we'll always have enough in this beloved community. And with that, the offering will be gratefully received. Try it. All right. Please join me in our offertory response. We give these gifts freely, committed to our mission to care, create beloved community, awaken hearts and minds, resist injustice, and act with compassion, embrace life and care for the earth. To this work, we dedicate our offerings. Our closing song. So, do we have some song leaders? All right. Please rise in body and or spirit and follow these two wonderful people in singing our closing song. I could use right now. But what I want to talk about is this transition space in my life that I didn't even know RuPaul was talking about, where I have somehow cultivated the middle-age uniqueness, nerve, and talent thing into something that's positive, something that gives me opportunities, and we can all do that. We don't have to have a crisis. We can become better. Maybe everyone else thinks we're having a crisis because we're so awesome, is what I might say. In the end, now that is all that is required to go on Drag Race is, of course, wanting to do drag, I would hope, because that seems awkward, but also that uniqueness, that talent, that commitment to being an authentic person, because here's the rub, everyone. When you are authentic, You're authentically who you are. You're authentically loving yourself. Other people are watching who need you. And that is so what? Andre, can you come help us extinguish the chalice? We extinguish this flame, but keep the light of truth, the warmth of commitment, and the fire of commitment. Be secure in our hearts and share with all the world. Good thing I know how to forgive myself for messing up. All right. It's announcement time. I've heard there's some special announcements. Is this true? Announcement time. Okay, come on, start your line, folks.
I can't be the only one.
Oh, you're not, friend. You're not. Whatever one. There's so many microphones.
Oh, this will work. Hi, I'm Steph Clark, she, her, and I'm actually filling in for our friend Christian Horvath today. He had to go out of town, but he wanted me to make sure that I mentioned, does everybody know what's happening March 30th, right here?
No, tell us. It's probably something fun.
Well, last year there was a 50s party that people are still talking about. 50s themed food and music and dancing and costumes. So this year it's time for the 60s. So we're talking 60s themed food. There was a lot of weird food in the 60s, so if you feel like making fondue or tomato aspic with celery and olives. Oh, you had that last time? Okay. So let's switch it up maybe to, food on skewers or I don't know, maybe the candy from the 60s. But there will be a dinner and dance on March 30th with lots of 60s themed food, games. Name That Tune is one of the games. A costume contest. But like Reverend Mandy mentioned, don't go on Amazon and buy a new 60s outfit. That's kind of wasteful, and we don't want to contribute to that kind of thing. Go to a thrift store, or like Rev Mandy said, talk to each other and see if there's something you can borrow from each other. Some tie-dye, some hippie stuff. And also, we'll have another planning meeting this Thursday on the 14th in the evening, probably around 6. So if you would like to sign up to help with the party, make sure you can either call the office and make sure you leave your name and your email address, or you can call and leave your phone number, but however you want to be reached, make sure you reach out to us so that we can include you on the planning call and get things rolling. There's a poster out on the bulletin board as well, and you can read some of the information there. There's also a QR code for uploading pictures of yourself from the 60s. So we'll be guessing, by looking at the photos, we'll be guessing who that person is. So everybody get excited for the 60s party. Thanks so much.
Hello again. I'm Camille. I'm the Director of Religious Education. On March 22nd, which is a Friday, we're going to have a parent night out. I am looking for parent volunteers who'd like to help. I know, but it's from 6 to 8 p.m. I don't know. Any non-parent volunteers are also welcome to help as well. So it's going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. We're going to have pizza. It should be fun. So we'll have it in the newsletter as well.
Thank you.
Hello there.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I got out of the way. That's fine.
If I could whistle, I would.
We are kicking off the Pledge/Stewardship campaign today.
Yay!
Yay! And we're gonna sing a half a song here for you. But although we're maybe taking it a little bit lightly, it's serious stuff. It keeps this church going. It keeps it year by year growing, and we need help. This is, we're going into our reserves, and we can't do that. So we have the cards printed out. We have the plane over there that you can put pictures in. That's somewhat superfluous, because really what we want is we want everybody to understand how important this process becomes. It's not just what we do for auctions and 60s parties and the play. It's more than that. And I just hope everybody takes part and also keeps it light, because if we get bogged down in the heaviness, I think it defeats some of its purpose. And Gary wants to say stuff about where the money goes.
Hey, the way I feel about this place is that it is irreplaceable. There is nowhere else in this town, for sure, where I can get the sustenance that I get here. And it's just vitally important as far as I'm concerned. And unfortunately, it can't be here unless we support it with pledges and funds. And so that's what the stewardship campaign is about. Stewardship means understanding the importance of what we have here and doing something that is going to help sustain it. Our display inside the social hall has a pie chart, and it shows us where the money is being spent in categories. It shows us categories, and by far the biggest category is, of course, our personnel, the people that, yes, indeed, the people that are here to actually create and run the programs and make things work. A significant amount of money gets spent on the building, but honestly, it's a very small percentage compared with what we spend on the people that help make this work. So I hope you all will think hard about how you're going to respond to the pledge campaign. We'll be mailing things out, but we have the pledge cards and letters in envelopes over here, so we'll save a little bit of money on postage if you stop by and tell me your last name and pick up your pledge card in its envelope while you're in the social hall. So I'll look forward to seeing all of you, or whoever wants to do that today. And thanks very much.
And if you're wondering why I'm dressed like an airline pilot, it's because the theme of the stewardship campaign this year is flight. It's flight, sort of an airplane flight. We're trying to take our airplane across and fill up all the seats of our plane as we get closer to our goal. Last year we had 56 total pledging units for a total of about $145,000 during our stewardship campaign, which was amazing. And we're hoping this year to ramp that up just a little bit. We would like 65 total pledging units. We're going to try and raise $175,000 this year, and I know we can do it together. And to kick it off, Tim and I are now going to do, and Gary are going to do a quick little version of a song I think we all know and love, although I've changed some of the lyrics. The great Johnny Nash has provided the melody here.
Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. It's time to start our stewardship campaign. And if we can pool our treasure together as a community, it's gonna be a bright sunshiny day. Let's do that again. It's gonna be a bright sunshiny
And you'll be hearing from us every week for quite a while. What do we do with our pledge cards?
What do we do with our pledge cards?
You can mail them back or give us.
Or put
There's
them
a-
in
Any blue box.
Any
you
blue
find in
box.
the lobby.
Yes.
There are metal blue boxes. You can also put a lot of money in there if you have a spare, too, in the blue boxes. Oh, sorry. Are we done? Anything else? Okay. I just want to say thank you so much. I know we went over a little bit, but it was fun. And I want to just express the fact that this is radical to have a woman standing here preaching to you with pants on, which is exciting. Pants on. Pantalone. Yeah. And so this week when you're out and you're feeling low, put on something sparkly. And remember that you are fierce, as RuPaul would say. And if that's scary, you could be fierce-ish if you're a little more. But there's something to be said about going out into the world and loving justice and loving each other. So have a wonderful week, and let's go spread that love.